Cronin. I'm an EAP teacher in the maths physics section. The reason I'm here is because I'm the person who's been most concerned with this in the last nearly 3 years now, as my colleagues will tell you. You might have noticed from the dormitory cafeteria there's a big brown box that says human trafficking closed. That basically ends up being me, so any donation you make. If you haven't yet had an email, believe me, you're going to get one very soon. So we've been concerned here in CPS and in NU with helping victims of trafficking now for nearly 3 years, since about March 2011. And primarily we do that by the collection of clothes which goes to help victims of trafficking in the shelters. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. One of the other ways we do that is with awareness raising. So far this term we haven't had a meeting, but I wanted really Diane to come first before we have one. But early next term I'm hoping we'll have a meeting with the counter-trafficking officer for the country, for Kazakhstan, Aliya, who lives in Almaty, but that will be announced to you later. I know you've all been working on this in the last couple of weeks, and this is now the 3rd year that we've had the pleasure of welcoming and he's got it down, coordinator of Central Asia, chef de mission for Central Asia. Last year and this year, my friend Dejan Kaserovic. The previous year to that, it was somebody else. Chef de mission, just to keep you informed, is actually the equivalent of an ambassador, or diplomatic level is that of an ambassador. I don't intend to talk anymore. Just a couple of points. I'm known for a couple of things around here, one of which is the ties, which some of you might have noticed. The other one is I don't like these things very much. And I'm known for taking them away from students in my class. Can you please make sure your phone is off during the lecture? It's extremely bad manners for your phone to be on when a guest is talking. So I'd really like to see the phones off for the duration of the lecture, please. So, my pleasure is to introduce my friend, who's now been here for a couple of years, Dejan Kaserovic, who will tell you more about the work of the International Organised Settlement Migration.
Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. As you all see, my name is Dejan Kaserovic, and I'm the regional coordinator of International Organization for Migration for Central Asia, and chief of mission in some of the countries in Central Asia. Before we come to the counter-trafficking and discuss about this phenomena, I will just briefly introduce to IOM what is the IOM all about, as it's just one of international organizations present in Kazakhstan, and one of the countries that is member state of IOM. IOM is founded as a result of the World War II. And actually, some of you also heard about UNHCR. UNHCR is take care about the refugees and asylum seekers, and IOM take care about the rest of the migrants. As already visible here, we set back in 1951, and some would call a sister agency to UNHCR or they to us, but this is important to immediately understand that within the UN system, each of agency had their own role, and who will do what? That depends on the member states. Nowadays, what is our member states in 155 member states globally? More or less, we are covering the whole globe. At this stage, we have 400 field offices. We have some 7,300 staff. In that sense, 7,300 staff is a global figure. Here in Central Asia, we have around 100. In Central Asia, we have a total of 7 offices. 2 in Kazakhstan, here in Astana, 1 in Almaty, 2 in Kyrgyzstan, Bishkek and Osh, and 1 of each other 3 capitals. I mean, global budget organization is in 2012 was $1.2 billion. Was actually our budget. This year will be a bit bigger, as unfortunately we have more crises in the world, such as the Syrian crisis. Some others will actually be doing to act. Why actually immigration is important? In the last couple of weeks, what I understand, you just focus on one type of immigration, which is forced migration and counter-trafficking. But actually, we are working in so-called 5 main areas here in Central Asia. One is immigration development, one is counter-trafficking assist to migrants, technical operation, border management, operational movement, emergency response. I will just briefly tell you what is all those 5 are all about. The one that you call migration development is actually how each country manage human resources. All of you are, I'll think of it, most of you are from Kazakhstan, some of you from the rest of Central Asia. Nevertheless, each country has the main focus is to think how they manage their own resources. They could be natural, as Kazakhstan do have quite a few, but then we cannot exploit those natural resources if we don't have a human potential. Therefore, very often the countries need migrants. From Kazakhstan till the end of the European continent, we have actually decline or demographic decline of the people of the population in Europe. What is that standing for? That Russia, if you go further, Ukraine, if you go further, Poland, if you go further, Germany, have a bigger mortality rate than natality rate. Currently, in all other countries, from Kazakhstan onward, you have more or less situation, you have one person working, and two that actually subsidized from the work of that person. What is it standing for? You are not working, meaning that who is working need to pay the taxes that students can go to the school, and also other kids to have the benefit from the kindergartens. And also, pensions are also paid from the person's working. In other words, in the rest of the Europe, if they want to maintain the current system, they will need workforce. This workforce will not be possible to abstract only from demographic development because they're in decline. Therefore, I'm talking also about Kazakhstan, when you have what? 17 million approximate population. Of the country, this is almost the same size as India, 1.2 billion. Obviously, there is a certain disbalance. And with the current growth of GDP of the country, what is up to the 6% every year, country cannot reach 2030, 2050, if they're not actually important. I'm talking about program 2030, 2050, that actually cannot reach those goals without having the migrants in. And that's the reason why the president, on 6th of December of the last year, when he announced 2050 program, the first time put it, migration, as one of the priority for the country. And that's something which you need to understand. Talking about migration development is actually very important to understand that migrants have an important role in developing the country, important role of how we actually manage human resources that are coming to one country. It's equally important for both sending and receiving country. But I will not talk about this because it's a totally separate subject, but you need to understand overall picture. Counter-trafficking assistance to the migrants. We already partially discussed this in the last couple of weeks, but it's important here to understand when you're talking about trafficking, if you're talking about smuggling, if you're talking about labor exploitation, it's again something that is linked to development of the country. More developed country has the same result, more problem because they're more attracting the people. The way how the country will govern, how the country have the governance, it's very important because this is the way how the country will actually respond first to their own need, but then also to attract appropriate group of migrants. On counter-trafficking come later to explain you a bit differences between counter-trafficking, smuggling, and what is this thin line between the labor exploitation and the poor labor contracts that some could sign. But I will after come to this. Technical cooperation, border management is something that you are facing when you're crossing the border. This is the way, what type of passports you have, how you're crossing the border, how fast actually you can do it, what type of visa you need, what kind of technical equipment exists at the border. This is all coming on the border management, but also when you cross to the country in, this is something called integrated border management. This is also how the country will manage migration within the country and at the border. Operational movements is something that is linked of support other countries within the country that is host us. Example could be, for example, if you want to go to Canada and we would like to submit a visa to Canada, you will actually submit to us because we are serving as agent to Canada. Then actually you will collect your biometric data, send to the Canadian officials, they will return back to us with your passport and visa if granted. Also, there is some other things like supporting the other countries if some people would like to immigrate to the United States for longer term. Then they need to went through certain checkings, mostly medical one. Then again, they have actually a medical officer who will deal with this based on the US standard. This is basically the countries that provide the services are US, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. On emergency response, also very important for you to understand this is all about. Emergency response is actually coming to the response to the natural or man-made disasters. Man-made disasters are something that we're talking about the wars, but not only wars. Man-made disasters is also linked with environment. Those that are coming that are close to Aral Sea are facing the Aral Sea disappearing. With disappearing of Aral Sea, people move from Uzbekistan, and some of them actually move to Kazakhstan. In that sense, this is also something come through certain emergency made by man, and they move them. In that sense, how the country respond, I made something what was called Migration Crisis Operational Framework. Important for it, it's all 155 country member states adopt this. 15 sectors of assistance, and how we assist them. It's very clear and pragmatic in that sense, how we can help, with who we will work, and how the things will come. Again, it's a different topic, but it's important to understand why all of those are actually important for us to understand. And all of those are also linked with counter-trafficking, because all of those services, all of those people that work in this service could also identify victims of trafficking. This is how actually, when you look at the global areas, this is where you have our so-called counter-trafficking projects globally. As you could see, pretty much everywhere. Why this map is important for you? To see that this is the phenomenon that exists throughout the world. But this is also not meaning that we don't have problems in Canada or don't have a problem in Australia. Only I am going to have projects there. Because NGO, civil society partners doing the job there. But we do cooperate with them. In other words, this is the global phenomenon. There is no country without problems with trafficking. Therefore, there's no need to say, if I identify that number of persons, it's a problem in my country. No, contrary, showing that law enforcement, everybody doing their own job, and actually identifying and helping those people that are victims that needs assistance. If you look at the general trends, this is actually something that it's important to understand on the scope within the region. Research done back in 2010, but pretty much it's remained the same. You'll see what is the estimated number of victims of 1,000 people. 26 till 2 in Kazakhstan. This is estimate, internal, external. You see the colors are clearly showing what is what. And as you could see, you have more external